The Intergalactic Academy was the pride of the galaxy. Built on a neutral world that circled a calm golden star, it was a place where knowledge, culture, and history from thousands of species came together. Its shining towers rose above silver-blue plains, and the air itself carried the quiet hum of energy shields that protected the campus. Students of every kind, scaled, feathered, furred, or shaped from crystal, walked side by side across bridges and through wide halls. To most of them, it was the first time leaving their homeworld. The academy was where the young would learn, argue, and grow before returning to become leaders. Every corner of the galaxy was represented here, and the mix of voices, languages, and laughter created a strange but beautiful harmony. Among these new arrivals was a group of alien students who had quickly found one another. They were young, bright, and full of curiosity. There was Yirak, a scaled youth from the desert world of Varan, who prided himself on his clever wit. Beside him walked Talia, a tall and elegant being whose people lived in vast forests under violet skies. With them were Jirok, small but quick-minded, and Relna, a crystalline student whose body shimmered whenever she laughed. They were excited but also restless. Rules of the academy were strange, sometimes amusing, and they whispered about them whenever they could. On their second day, as they sat in the grand lecture dome waiting for orientation to begin, their attention fell on a large glowing screen that listed the most important academy regulations. Number 7, Yirak read aloud with a grin. No war simulations involving humans are permitted in this academy. He tilted his head, the scales on his cheek catching the light. Humans? Those small creatures from that blue planet? Relna flickered with laughter, her crystal surface scattering prisms across the wall. That is a rule. Why? Are humans so special that they cannot even be included in a classroom exercise? Jirok squeaked in amusement. Perhaps they wrote the rules themselves. Maybe they want to feel important. Talia's long ears twitched. I heard of humans. Primitive world, chaotic history. Always fighting with one another. Perhaps the academy bans them so we do not waste time watching endless brawls. Their laughter carried softly through the dome. But they were not the only ones listening. At the far end of the row sat an older figure, one of the professors who had taught at the academy for over 100 cycles. His name was Professor Sarin, a tall, pale being with thoughtful eyes. He leaned on his staff and regarded the students with a calm expression. When their chuckles grew louder, he spoke. His voice was not harsh, but it carried across the dome. Mock if you wish, Sarin said, but do not mistake the meaning of that rule. There are reasons, very serious reasons, for the ban on human war simulations. You may laugh now, but you will not laugh if you see what I have seen. The young students paused. They expected a stern scolding, but instead they heard a quiet warning. Yirak raised a scaled brow, his amusement only half hidden. Are you saying humans are so dangerous that even pretending to fight them is forbidden? Sarin tapped his staff lightly. I am saying only this. There is no profit in underestimating humanity. He gave them a long, steady look before turning away, leaving them in silence. For a moment, the group said nothing. Then Relna gave a nervous shimmer, breaking the stillness. He makes it sound mysterious, as if humans are some great terror. Jirok squeaked again, this time with more excitement than laughter. That makes me even more curious. Imagine a small, soft species so frightening that no one dares to simulate a battle with them. Talia folded her arms, thoughtful now. Or perhaps it is an exaggeration, a story told by teachers to make rules sound important. My people say humans once asked to join the academy, but they were denied. Maybe this rule is only politics. Yirak chuckled again, though his voice carried a hint of unease. Then let us find out the truth ourselves. The rule forbids simulations, but surely there are old records, archives, reports, stories. If humans are truly dangerous, I want to see it with my own eyes. The others looked at one another and slowly, one by one, they nodded. The orientation began, but the group paid little attention. Their minds were on the strange rule, the warning of the professor, and the mystery that now surrounded humanity. That evening, the academy's great halls glowed with soft light as students returned to their quarters. The campus was alive with voices from hundreds of worlds, and holographic signs pointed the way to libraries, laboratories, and gardens filled with alien flora. The 4 students gathered in one of the open courtyards, sitting beneath a floating lantern that shone with shifting colors. I still cannot believe it, Relna said. Of all the species in the galaxy, only humans are banned in simulations. Not the warlike Greylocks, not the insectoid swarm, not even the ancient machine minds. Only humans. Jirok leaned forward eagerly. That is exactly why we must know more. Knowledge is free here, is it not? The Academy encourages curiosity. Talia hesitated. But there are limits. If it is truly forbidden, we could face punishment. Yurak waved a claw dismissively. Forbidden only for simulations. Watching records, learning history, that cannot be against the rules. Besides, what is the worst that could happen? We learn that humans are indeed dangerous, and then we stop laughing. That is not a crime. Relna shimmered with agreement. Then tomorrow we visit the digital archives. We will see for ourselves what the Academy tries so hard to hide. The decision was made. The next morning, the group walked together through the archive hall, one of the grandest buildings on campus. Its tall pillars were carved with symbols of unity, and its entrance was guarded by statues of scholars from many worlds. Inside, endless rows of glowing data crystals floated in the air, each one holding centuries of knowledge. Students moved quietly among the shelves, pulling records and viewing holographic displays. The archive was open to all, but its deeper levels required permission. Yurak led the way, his claws tapping against the polished floor. We search for human history. The archive cannot hide everything. Even if the Academy forbids war simulations, surely there are records of their past. They approached a glowing console and began their search. At first, the results were simple. Records of Earth, the human homeworld. They saw images of blue oceans, green forests, tall mountains. They read of human art, music, philosophy, and science. Relna tilted her head, fascinated. They are not only warriors. They create beauty as well. Look at this, paintings, music, stories. Strange but powerful. Jirok scrolled further, impatient. Yes, but where are the battles? Where is the danger? The console blocked their search with a soft tone. Access restricted, Yurak smirked. Of course. They hide what we seek. He tapped quickly, using a trick he had learned from older students. With a flick of claws and a whisper of codes, the barrier gave way. The console opened a new set of files, military records. War logs, battle footage. The four students leaned closer, eyes wide with anticipation. But before they could open the first file, a shadow fell over them. Professor Sareen stood at the edge of the aisle, his staff resting lightly on the floor. His expression was calm, but his eyes seemed to pierce straight into them. You are curious, he said softly. That is natural. But be careful what you wish to learn. The students froze. Relna flickered nervously. We only wanted to understand. Sareen studied them for a long moment. Then instead of scolding, he sighed. Understanding is not forbidden. But there are truths that weigh heavily once seen. If you choose this path, you will not laugh again. You will not look at humanity the same way. Yurak swallowed, his earlier boldness fading just slightly. Is that a warning, Professor? Siren nodded once. Yes, a warning, and also a kindness. He turned, leaving them once more with his words echoing in their ears. For a long time, none of the students spoke. Then Jirok whispered, Now I must see. Whatever he fears, it cannot be worse than ignorance. Relna flickered again, but this time not with laughter, with unease. Perhaps we are stepping onto a path we cannot leave. Yet even as she said it, she leaned closer to the console. The others did too. Curiosity was stronger than caution. The files waited, and with trembling hands they prepared to open them. The archive hall was silent except for the soft hum of energy crystals floating above the consoles. Students from different species walked in silence, searching for knowledge, whispering now and then, but the four young aliens sat together with restless excitement. Their hearts beat fast as they prepared to open the restricted files. Yurak's scaled finger hovered above the glowing panel. His eyes glittered with pride. We will see now. Humans are no more than a small species. I expect nothing but loud shouting and reckless fighting. Talia leaned closer, her long ears flicking nervously. Do not be too certain. Professor Sarin's warning was not spoken lightly. Relna's crystalline body shimmered with pale blue light. If it is too much, we can stop. But at least we will know the truth. Jirok squeaked softly, excitement bursting from his small frame. Yes, knowledge is never a mistake. Let us begin. With a single tap, Yurak broke the seal. The console flickered and a holographic display rose above it. At first, only simple text scrolled across the air. Archive record, human conflicts, early history. The first images appeared, grainy, ancient recordings. Humans in crude armor, riding beasts into battle. Spears, swords, shields, and arrows filled the display. War cries echoed faintly through the console speakers. Relna tilted her head. Primitive. Just as I expected. Look at them throwing sticks at each other. Yurak smirked. And yet they fight with such fire. Look at their eyes. They seem ready to die for nothing but land or honor. Girak squeaked louder, nearly bouncing from his seat. Keep going. Show the next era. The console obeyed. The holograms changed, now showing metal weapons, black powder, smoke, and cannons. Humans marched in uniforms, fought on seas, charged with flags flying. Explosions lit the battlefield. Talia's elegant face grew serious. They learned quickly. See how they change weapons? In only a few centuries, they leaped from sticks to thunder. Relna's shimmer dimmed. And the bodies. So many bodies. Yet still they fight. Yurak tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. Perhaps this is why the professor warned us. Not because humans are powerful, but because they are foolish enough never to stop. Still, none of them looked away. Hours passed as the group moved through history. They saw humans inventing machines, flying above their world, and soon fighting wars that spread across continents. Tanks rolled through mud, planes dropped fire, cities burned. At one point, Girak fell silent, his earlier squeaks of excitement gone. He whispered instead, I thought they would stop after such destruction. Yet they continued. Each war greater than the last. Relna's body flickered with pale, fearful light. They fight as if survival itself depends on it, even when the war is among themselves. Talia leaned closer, her voice steady but troubled. Perhaps that is the truth. Perhaps for humans survival is always a fight. The hologram shifted again. Now it showed soldiers landing on foreign beaches, running under fire, refusing to turn back even as many fell. Yurak's scaled hand clenched slightly. He whispered, I do not understand. Why do they keep going? When defeat is certain, they still push forward. No other species I know would waste themselves so. The files ended there, but the console gave a soft tone. More restricted records available. Warning, higher access required. Girak's eyes gleamed with hunger. Higher access! There is more. We must see the advanced wars, space battles, surely. Talia hesitated. Already what we have seen is heavy. Perhaps this is enough. But Yurak shook his head firmly. No, if we stop now, we remain half-blind. I can bypass the next level as well. I have done this before with other archives. Relna flickered with unease. If the Academy hides these files so carefully, perhaps it is dangerous to see them. Yurak's grin returned, though it was thinner now. Danger lies only in ignorance. We must understand why humans are so feared. Otherwise, we will always wonder. The others fell silent. One by one, they nodded, though their eyes betrayed uncertainty. With careful hands, Yurak entered new codes, weaving through the archive's protection like a thief through shadows. The console hesitated, then unlocked. A new file appeared. Restricted record. Humanity. Galactic-era conflicts. The students leaned forward. Their breath caught in their throats. The hologram lit up again, but this time it was no ancient battlefield. Now they saw vast fleets of starships clashing in the darkness of space. Beams of light tore through hulls. Explosions painted the void with fire. Girak squeaked loudly, though not with joy, this time with shock. They fight in space. Look, those ships smaller than the enemy's, yet they charge forward without hesitation. Talia's eyes widened. The enemy fleet outnumbers them 3-1. Yet the humans advance, Relna whispered. Madness. They should flee, but the humans did not flee. In the footage, they fought like cornered beasts, but also like masters of strategy. Tiny ships darted into massive enemy cruisers, crippling them. Human marines boarded enemy vessels with fierce determination. Even when their ships burned, humans ejected into space in suits and continued firing until their oxygen ran out. Yurak's hand trembled slightly. He tried to speak with confidence, but his voice shook. They are desperate. That is all. Desperation makes fools brave. But in his heart he felt unease. The next file played. A planet under siege. Enemy forces landed in great numbers, their weapons far superior. Yet the humans fought in cities and forests and mountains. Civilians joined soldiers. Children carried supplies. Old ones built defenses. Relna's light dimmed to gray. Even their civilians fight. I have never seen such a thing, Giroc whispered. They turn every ruin into a weapon. They never stop. The battle dragged on for weeks, and the footage showed humans starving, wounded, exhausted. But still they fought. And in the end, though their cities were destroyed, the enemy was forced to retreat. The students sat in silence, their earlier laughter long gone. As they watched, patterns became clear. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the most advanced. Their ships were often smaller, their weapons older, and yet, they won battles they should have lost. They fought with something the students struggled to name. Talia finally whispered the thought aloud. It is not strength. It is not technology. It is will. They fight with willpower greater than reason. Even when defeat is certain, they refuse to accept it. Relna flickered faintly as if shivering. That is why they are feared. Because even in defeat they cannot be broken. Giroc leaned back, his small body trembling. Now I understand the professor's warning. To face humans in war is not only to fight them. It is to fight against something inside them that will not stop until one side is gone. The console blinked again. Another file appeared, its title blurred, marked with the highest restriction. Final record, humanity, classified footage. The students looked at one another. None spoke at first. The silence of the archive pressed down on them. Finally, Giroc broke the quiet, his voice low. We have come this far. We cannot turn back now. Talia closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. If we see this, there is no returning to ignorance. Relna's crystalline body shone softly. Perhaps that is what we need to know the truth no matter how heavy. Giroc nodded quickly, though his hands shook. Yes, we must. Show it. Giroc reached out slowly, his claw hovering over the panel. For the first time, his confidence seemed uncertain. But he pressed the key. The console glowed red. A warning message appeared. Accessing this record is forbidden without council approval. Proceeding may result in expulsion. The students froze. Their hearts beat fast, Relna whispered. If we go further, we risk everything. But Giroc's eyes hardened. Then let us risk it. For knowledge. The others nodded, almost against their will. With a deep breath, Giroc pressed the final key. The console went silent. The lights dimmed. And then slowly the hologram began to play. The console glowed red, and the air in the archive hall grew tense. The students leaned closer, their eyes fixed on the shimmering hologram. They had already seen enough to shake their laughter into silence, but this new file was different. It was marked as classified. Even the console itself had warned them. The hologram flickered, and a voice spoke in a language none of the students knew, but the console translated the words in calm tones. File, Battle of Draxon Outpost. Warning, disturbing content. Viewer discretion advised. The image sharpened. A cold, barren world stretched before them. Snow fell across ruined fortifications. Towers of smoke rose from shattered buildings. And then they saw them. Humans dressed in heavy armor, their faces hidden behind visors. Their breath misted in the freezing air as they moved through trenches. Relna's crystalline surface dimmed. This world is lifeless. Why do they fight here? Talia whispered. Not for land. Perhaps for survival alone. The scene shifted. Alien attackers stormed the trenches. Massive beings with sharp limbs and thick carapaces. The enemy roared as they charged. The humans stood firm. They fired weapons with cold precision, each shot striking true. When the attackers broke through, humans dropped their rifles and pulled out blades, fighting at close range with desperate ferocity. Blood stained the snow. The students leaned forward, hearts racing. Giroc squeaked, his voice trembling. There are too many of the enemy. They will fall. They must fall! But the humans did not fall. Even when the line broke, even when their numbers thinned, they pulled one another from the ground, carried the wounded, and closed ranks again. They fought like a single body, every soldier tied to the others by something invisible. Relna's light flickered weakly. Why do they not retreat? They could survive if they fled. Giroc whispered, his voice heavy. They do not retreat because they would rather die than abandon their post. The recording shifted to another angle. An enemy beast leaping over the trench, claws raised. A human soldier stood his ground, raising a small explosive. He shouted something. Untranslated words filled with fury, and detonated it, destroying himself and the monster together. The students gasped. Talia's long ears pressed flat against her head. They choose death if it means victory. The battle raged for hours in the footage. The enemy kept coming. The humans, exhausted, starving, freezing, still refused to surrender. When the final wave broke against them, only a handful remained standing. Their armor was cracked, their bodies bleeding. Yet when their commander called, they lifted their weapons once more. The hologram froze. A human voice filled the silence. We are not done. We fight until nothing remains. The image faded. The students sat motionless, their eyes wide. The silence between them was heavy, as though words would shatter something fragile. The console loaded another file without their command. The title appeared, Siege of Meridian Colony. The hologram shifted. Now they saw a colony world under attack by a massive fleet. Alien ships descended from orbit, bombarding the surface. Cities burned. Civilians ran through the streets. Jirok covered his eyes briefly. No, not civilians again, but the humans were there too. Soldiers and civilians stood side by side, building barricades, passing weapons, fighting in the ruins. Children carried water to the wounded. Elders guided groups through fire to safety, Relna whispered, her light trembling. They all fight, not just soldiers, everyone. The recording showed a human commander speaking to his troops. His voice carried through the translation, "We will hold this ground. No matter the cost, our people must survive. If we fall standing." The enemy attacked in waves. The students watched as buildings collapsed, as the colony seemed doomed. Yet every time the attackers thought victory was theirs, humans struck back with cunning traps, ambushes, and relentless counterattacks. A scene burned itself into the students' minds. A group of wounded humans, too injured to fight, insisting that the healthy ones leave them behind. Instead, the soldiers refused. They carried the wounded on their backs, fighting with one hand while protecting their comrades with the other. Tahlia's voice shook. I thought bravery was the act of a single hero. But here they are all heroes. The file ended with the colony still standing, the enemy fleet retreating into space. Humans, battered and broken, raised their flag above the ruins. The hologram dimmed. The console's voice spoke again. Note: humanity is unique among known species. They fight not only for survival, but for one another. They accept loss, but not surrender. Once provoked, they will pursue an enemy until the conflict is ended. The students shivered. For a long moment, none dared to speak. Finally, Jirok broke the silence, though his voice was low and strained. I mocked them. I called them primitive. But I was wrong. What I have seen, it is not savagery. It is something else. Relna's surface flickered dimly, her usual bright glow gone. It is terrifying. To fight without end. To carry even the weakest into battle, to sacrifice without hesitation. I do not understand it. Jirok spoke softly, almost in awe. They fight as though they fear nothing. Not death, not pain, not even defeat. Talia corrected him gently. No, they do fear. I see it in their eyes. But they fight anyway. That is what makes them terrifying. The console blinked again. One more file appeared, this one marked with bright warning colors. Final record, Battle of Halcyon Rift. The students exchanged glances. Their hearts were heavy. They already felt the weight of what they had seen, and yet the temptation to know more burned inside them. Relna whispered, Perhaps we should stop. Already my mind feels heavy. Jirok shook his head quickly, though his small hands trembled. No, we cannot stop here. We must see why this is the final record. Jirok clenched his scaled hands, his voice tense. Yes, if we turn away now, we will forever wonder. Let us see it through. Talia hesitated, then nodded slowly. Very well. But know this. After today, none of us will be the same. With one last glance at each other, Jirok pressed the command. The hologram filled the air with a vast scene of space. At the center was the Halcyon Rift, a region of shattered asteroids and glowing storms of energy. A human fleet floated at the edge of the rift, small compared to the massive alien armada approaching them. The translation filled the air. Battle of Halcyon Rift. Humans outnumbered 5-1. Enemy fleet superior in weapons and size. The students leaned forward, breathless. The battle began. The alien armada advanced with overwhelming firepower. Human ships burned one after another. But the humans fought with cunning. They lured the enemy into the rift's unstable storms, using the environment as a weapon. Jirok gasped. They sacrifice ships to trap the enemy. Relna flickered dimly. Every loss is part of their plan. They turned death itself into a weapon. The footage showed a human captain giving orders calmly as his ship burned around him. His last words translated rang clear. "If you come for us, you'd better not fail, because we will never stop until it is finished." The students froze. Those words pierced them more deeply than the images. The battle ended with the alien fleet destroyed, though nearly every human ship was gone as well. Only a few survivors remained, but they had won against impossible odds. The hologram flickered and died. Silence filled the archive. The students sat in stillness, their minds heavy with the weight of what they had seen. Their laughter was gone, replaced by fear, awe, and a deep, unsettled respect. Relna's light was dim, trembling faintly. "Now I understand. The ban is not for human pride. It is for mercy. To see this, it changes everything," Jirok whispered. "I mocked them. I thought them weak. But now I see they are the last enemy anyone should want." Tahlia's voice was quiet, thoughtful. "It is not that they cannot be defeated. It is that even in defeat, they will not let you escape. They will hunt, they will fight, they will rise again." Jirok sat in silence for a long time before finally speaking. His voice was low and heavy. "We wanted to see the truth. And now we have. The professor was right. We will never laugh again at the name of humans." The console shut itself down, the files locked once more. But the images remained burned into their minds. As they rose to leave, the silence of the archive seemed deeper than before. They had come seeking amusement. What they had found was something far more dangerous. They had seen humanity, and they would never forget. The archive hall was silent again, yet the students' minds were louder than ever. Their hearts still echoed with the words of the human captain. "If you come for us, you'd better not fail, because we will never stop until it is finished." Those words would not leave them. They felt heavier than all the battles they had seen. The console remained dark for several long moments. Then, without their command, a final message appeared in glowing letters. "You have accessed restricted files. Warning. Next sequence contains classified footage. Proceed only if prepared for full disclosure." Relna flickered dimly, her crystal form trembling with unease. "We should not. We have already seen too much. My light feels heavy," Jirok squeaked, his tiny body restless. "But this is the last step. We have come so far. If we stop now, our questions remain unanswered." Talia's ears drooped as she looked at the others. "What more can be shown? We have seen battles against impossible odds, humans refusing to surrender, civilians fighting beside soldiers. What is left beyond that?" Jirok's scaled hand hovered above the console. His usual grin was gone. His face was serious, almost grim. "Whatever this is, it must be the true reason the ban exists. The Academy fears this file most of all. That means it holds the real truth about humanity." The others exchanged nervous glances. Finally, slowly, they nodded. Jirok pressed the command. The console hummed. The archive's lights dimmed until only the hologram shone, casting pale blue light across their faces. The recording began with silence. No battle, no gunfire, no explosions. Just silence, then came a voice. It was human, calm but cold. "This is Captain Arlen, commander of the 7th Fleet. This record is left for the Council and for history. It is not a tale of victory. It is a warning." The students leaned closer. The image sharpened into the interior of a damaged starship. The walls were scorched. Alarms flickered red, and humans moved swiftly through the corridors, preparing weapons, sealing bulkheads. Outside the windows of the ship, a massive alien fleet advanced. Jirok squeaked in alarm. "They are doomed. There is no escape." The captain's voice continued, translated clearly. "Our enemy came to destroy our colonies. They believed us weak. They believed we would run. They were wrong." The camera followed the humans as they worked. Some loaded weapons even while injured. Others comforted frightened civilians. A few spoke quietly, sharing words of encouragement. Relna whispered, "They are preparing for death." Talia corrected softly, "No, they are preparing for victory, even if death is certain." The footage shifted to the battlefield outside. Human ships, battered and outnumbered, arranged themselves into a formation. They had no chance of escape. The captain's voice returned. "When you fight humans, you must understand. We do not fight for land. We do not fight for power. We fight for each other. And if we cannot live, then we will make sure our enemy does not either. The students shivered as the fleet advanced into the rift. The first clash was brutal. Human ships were torn apart in minutes. Entire cruisers vanished in fire. But instead of retreating, the survivors pushed forward, slamming their vessels into enemy lines, detonating their cores. Yurak's eyes widened. They destroy themselves willingly. Relna's glow dimmed further. It is beyond reason. They choose death over surrender. The recording zoomed in on a single frigate, engines burning, hurtling straight into a massive enemy dreadnought. The humans aboard shouted in unison, their words untranslated but filled with defiance before their ship struck. The explosion consumed both vessels. The archive shook with the sound. Talia covered her mouth with her hand. They turned themselves into weapons. They do not fear even their own destruction. The battle continued. Every human loss created an opening. Every fallen ship became a trap. Slowly, impossibly, the enemy fleet began to break apart. Yet the humans were nearly gone too. Then came the part that made the students' hearts freeze. The camera returned to the human captain. His ship was in flames. Only fragments of his fleet remained. To those who see this recording, the captain said, his face calm, his eyes unyielding, remember this. Do not provoke humanity. If you strike us, we will rise. If you burn our homes, we will rebuild. If you kill us, we will haunt your memory. You may destroy our bodies, but you will never destroy our will. And if we fall, we will drag you into the abyss with us. His final order rang clear. For humanity, fire everything. The ship's weapons lit up, firing every missile, every cannon, every piece of energy they had left. The students watched in horror and awe as the humans destroyed not only the enemy, but themselves. The rift burned with light. When the image cleared, there was silence. Both fleets were gone. Only wreckage floated in the void. The recording ended. The students sat frozen in the darkened archive. Their bodies trembled, their minds numb. Relna's crystal form flickered faintly. They destroyed themselves, only to destroy their enemy. I did not believe such will existed. Jirok whispered in a broken voice. This is why the ban exists. Not because humans are weak, but because to watch them fight is to know despair. How can anyone stand against such will? Talia closed her eyes, her voice low. This is why simulations are forbidden. To imagine fighting humans is to imagine your own destruction. Yurak sat in silence, his hands clenched. His pride, his arrogance, his mocking words from before gone. Finally he spoke, his voice heavy and slow. I thought them primitive. I thought them foolish. But I see now. They are something far worse. They are inevitable. Once provoked, they cannot be stopped. The console flickered with a final message. End of classified record. Knowledge granted. May wisdom follow. The archive returned to silence. As the students left the hall, their steps were slow, their faces pale. They had entered laughing, mocking, curious. Now they walked as though carrying a weight none of them could put down. In the courtyard outside, they sat together under the shifting lanterns. None spoke for a long time. The night air was cool, but their bodies felt heavy with the heat of what they had seen. Finally, Relna spoke softly. I will never mock them again. The ban was not written for them. It was written for us. Jirok nodded quickly, his small body trembling. Yes, to protect us from the truth. To protect us from knowing that if we ever face humans, there is no escape. Talia looked toward the stars, her voice quiet. Perhaps that is why they are avoided. Not because they are monsters, but because they are reminders of what it means to fight with all of oneself. It frightens us because we cannot match it. Yurak lowered his head, his pride shattered. I thought myself clever. I thought I understood war. But I see now. I understand nothing. To face humans is not war. It is doom. They sat in silence again, the truth pressing down on them. The night stretched long, and none of them slept easily, for in their minds, they still saw the burning rift, the calm face of the human captain, and the words that would echo forever. If you strike us, we will rise. If you kill us, we will haunt your memory. And if we fall, we will drag you into the abyss with us. The morning came slowly at the Intergalactic Academy. For most students, the day began with cheerful voices, glowing lights, and the gentle hum of knowledge flowing between minds and machines. But for Relna, Yurak, Jirok, and Talia, the brightness of the new day only deepened the shadows in their hearts. They gathered in the quiet corner of the courtyard, their faces still pale, their eyes carrying the weight of the night before. None of them had slept well. Every time they closed their eyes, they saw it again. The human fleet burning in the rift, the captain's calm face and those words that refused to fade. If we fall, we will drag you into the abyss with us. The words clung to them like a scar. The professor arrives, Professor Lurok. The elder of scaled skin and calm eyes found them there. His steps were slow but certain, his gaze sharp as always. He looked at them in silence for a long moment, and then he spoke. So, you have seen it. None of the students answered. Their silence was enough. Lurok sighed, lowering himself onto the stone bench beside them. His body creaked with age, but his presence was strong. Every cycle, a few young minds believe they are clever enough to break the rules. They think the ban is a joke, that humanity is only a story exaggerated to frighten children. And every cycle, a few emerge from the archive with the same faces I see now. Relna's crystal form flickered faintly, her glow weak. Why is it forbidden? Why hide the truth if it is so important? The professor's scaled lips curved into something between a smile and a frown. Because the truth is a weight, Relna. It is too heavy for most. Knowledge can teach, yes, but knowledge can also break the spirit. Humanity's story is not hidden to protect them. It is hidden to protect you. The weight of what they saw. Yurok's fists tightened on his knees. His pride, once sharp and unshakable, now trembled. I mocked them. I laughed at the ban. I thought humans were primitive, but now, I see I was a fool. Professor Lurok turned his gaze on him. You are not the first to think so, Yurok. Many powerful empires once thought as you did. They believed humanity was simple prey, soft flesh on a small world. They believed their fleets, their weapons, their numbers would crush the humans easily. But they learned. And most of those empires do not exist anymore. The student stiffened. Yurok squeaked nervously. Do you mean they were destroyed? The professor nodded slowly. Yes. Destroyed. Not because humans are the strongest, not because they are the most advanced, but because they are the most relentless. Once a human decides to fight, they do not stop. Not until the end. And if they cannot win, they make sure no one else wins either. The words echoed, heavy and final. Why humans are different, Talia finally spoke, her voice trembling but steady. I do not understand, Professor. Many species are brave. Many species defend their homes. What makes humans different? Lurok studied her quietly, then answered. It is not bravery alone. It is not strength or technology or numbers. It is the heart of their struggle. Humans fight not only for survival but for meaning. They fight for each other, for their past, for their future. Even when hope is gone, they create hope with their will, Relna whispered, but they destroy themselves too. I saw them turn their own ships into fire. That is not only strength, it is madness. The professor's gaze softened. Yes, it is madness, and yet it is also devotion. Humans will give everything for their people. That is why they are feared. That is why the ban exists. To remind others never to provoke them, never to invite a storm that cannot be stopped. A lesson in fear and respect. Silence settled again. The students' eyes were lowered, each lost in thought. Finally, Yurok looked up, his voice quiet, stripped of arrogance. I thought myself brave once. I thought I understood war. But after what I saw, if I ever faced humans, I would not feel brave. I would feel doomed. Lurok placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. That is the lesson. To fight humans is not simply to face soldiers. It is to face a will that does not break. And that is why the simulations are banned. To imagine such an enemy too often can break the spirit before a real war even begins. Yurok shivered, his small body curling into itself. So the ban? It is not to protect humans. It is to protect us, the professor nodded. Exactly. You see now. Understanding, the Banthy students sat in silence for a while, the truth sinking deeper into them. Relna's glow steadied a little, though it was dim. I mocked them. I laughed. But now I respect them. I fear them, yes, but I also respect them. Their strength is not of body, but of will. It is frightening. Talia looked up at the sky. I will never hear their name the same way again. Humanity. A word I once thought small now feels larger than any empire. Lurok closed his eyes. That is the correct response. Not hatred, not worship, but respect. Respect and caution. For if ever the galaxy forgets this truth, history will repeat itself and another empire will fall. The change in their hearts. The day passed slowly. The students attended lectures, but their minds were elsewhere. Each word spoken by the professors seemed to echo against the memory of human defiance. During combat theory class, when a simulation displayed strategies against various alien species, Yurak felt his stomach twist. He could not help but imagine what it would be like if the simulation placed humans in those scenarios. The thought alone made his claws tremble. During history class, when Relna heard stories of fallen empires, she wondered how many of them had vanished because of humanity. She realized the records were carefully silent on some wars. Now she understood why. During language studies, Jirak repeated phrases with little attention. His mind returned again and again to the human captain's final words. "We will haunt your memory." The words had already come true. During meditation, Talia tried to calm her mind, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw fire in the rift, and men and women who did not fear it. Each of them carried the truth differently, but none could let it go. The professor's final words at the end of the cycle, Professor Lurok gathered them one last time. "You have seen what most will never see. You have felt what most will never feel. Now you must choose how to carry it." They listened in silence as he continued. Some who learn this truth fall into despair. They see humanity as monsters and live in fear. Others grow arrogant still, thinking they will find a way to overcome them. Both paths are dangerous. The correct path is balance. Fear, yes, but also respect. Respect enough never to provoke them. Fear enough never to forget them. That is the wisdom the ban was meant to teach. Relna bowed her crystal head. "We understand now." Jirak squeaked softly. "We will never laugh again." Talia's ears flicked as she whispered, "We will remember." Jirak lifted his head slowly, pride replaced with something new, humility. "And if others mock, we will be the ones to warn them." The professor's eyes softened. He nodded. "Then you have learned. That is all I hoped for." The quiet resolve as the cycle ended. The four friends walked together through the academy's shining halls. Around them, laughter and chatter filled the air, but none of them joined in. They were changed. They had entered the archive as curious, mocking children. They left it as witnesses of a truth older and greater than themselves. The ban was no longer a joke to them. It was a shield, a mercy, a reminder, and in the quiet of their hearts each carried the same thought. Humanity is not to be taken lightly. They are not to be provoked. For once they rise, nothing in the galaxy can make them fall without falling alongside them. Closing reflection. That night, under the glow of the twin moons above the academy, the students sat together again. None spoke for a long time. Then Talia whispered, almost to herself, "Perhaps that is what makes them different. They do not only fight for life, they fight for meaning, and that meaning makes them stronger than death." The others nodded. Relna's glow brightened faintly as she added, "The ban was mercy. Now we understand why." And in that moment they all knew they would never forget, for the humans had already kept their promise. They had haunted their memory.